The Confessions of a Middle-Aged Blogger, so I hand over to Frank.
Good evening. First of all, who doesn't know what a blog is? Now, there's a few people, I knew there would be a few. Well, basically, you know what blogging is? It's writing, basically, and just putting out online on various different sites. And a blog, basically, is a video version of that. Instead of using text, you use videos, you're generally just talking into a camera. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, and about the sort of journey that I've taken on that. I first discovered, if I put this up here, actually, this particular site back in, we all know this site, I'm sure everybody knows this site, it's now a huge entertainment site, but back in 2006, when I first discovered YouTube, they had this slogan, broadcast yourself, and that's what it was all about. It was about putting the camera on yourself and just putting yourself out there and putting your own thoughts and ideas in your own videos, in whatever format they may be, up there onto the big screen. Now back then, YouTube was in its infancy, but also it was about the only sort of social media site that we had. We might have had MySpace, but look what happened to that. But Twitter, when I first discovered YouTube, which was July of 2006, Twitter had literally just launched. Facebook had only just gone global, apart from being in the universities and been in America. So there was no such thing as Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that. So this was the only place that you could go to communicate with other people in the social media sense across the world, and we used to do it via video. As I said, I first discovered it in 2006 in July, and because the site was in its infancy as well then, all the people doing those vlogs, just turning the camera on themselves and speaking, were on the front page, they were visible. There weren't all the music videos and everything that there are now. So you could see these people, and the first person I discovered was a man called Renetto. His real name is Paul Robinette, and he was a real evangelist about vlogging, basically, which is just talking about any particular subject you can think of into a camera and putting it out there, other people watching it and getting involved. And he was very intrigued about this whole idea, which was in its infancy at the time, so much so that he was giving away free webcams so that other people could do it. Once again, with that, we didn't have smartphones back then as well. It's only 12 years ago, but we didn't have smartphones. We had webcams on the tops of computers. It was only Apple Macs that had the little cameras embedded within them. So it was real back in the Stone Age and that type of thing. So the site was completely different, and people like Renetto were evangelising about people getting together across the world, because being a global website as it was, you could communicate via video across the world to people anywhere. And I made friends literally across the world, which I will come to in a moment. So people were putting videos out there. They were talking about just about anything you could possibly think of. But in those days, as I said, YouTube has changed a lot. If I made a video and put it out there talking about music, someone could respond to that in video format and actually make a response and a comment as well, and you would start conversations. And those conversations got people talking across the world, and they started up friendships. And also back in those days as well, what was so good about it was that there were people of all ages, races, colours, creeds, sexualities. Everybody was there having this conversation. And I said about Renetto, the first person that I spotted talking about this, the man that really got me into it was a 79-year-old widower from Derbyshire in the UK called Peter Oakley, who went by the name, rather ironically, of Geriatric 1927. And he started making videos as well, partly in response to Renetto and the other bloggers that he'd seen back in those days of 2006. And I watched his videos, and there's a 79-year-old man getting out there, having the confidence to put the camera on himself, putting him outside into the world, ridicule potentially. We had haters and trolls in those days as well, and putting himself out there and just talking about getting out there and trying. He was a widower, as I said, so he was trying to find friends, trying to find a new way of life, maybe exploring new avenues, and he was welcomed with open arms. And the first video I ever made for YouTube back in August of 2006 was actually in response to Peter. Since then, I now have, I think it's 850 videos uploaded to the site, which is quite, it's quite amazing. I checked the other day actually, and so that sort of made me sort of sit back and think about that type of thing. So, because, as I said, we started these conversations with people right across the world. I've got friends with videos I remember a guy in Israel I used to talk to quite a lot, in Australia, literally everywhere. We started these conversations because they were like-minded people. A lot of them were creative people as well. Artists, musicians, writers, other video makers, that type of thing as well. And because we started these conversations and you got to know the people behind the camera, they were real people, and we started these conversations, especially with the responses and everything, and you got to know them, and they became virtual friends. And naturally, what happens is those virtual friends, then you want to become real friends. So people started meeting up. Small places, especially in the United States where YouTube was obviously based. But literally, I remember going to one in 2007 in London, meeting up with like-minded people, which is a bit of a strange thing when you've only met these people online. But it's one of the sort of 2 points that I wanted to sort of make out through my sort of journey from sort of 2006 to now, is that it's taken me literally to different places. Because of YouTube and because of making these videos, I've done 2 trips to the United States, literally just to meet fellow vloggers, which may seem a bit strange. The first one, I flew to Chicago in 2008 and met these 2 guys. The guy on the left is Mike, who comes from San Francisco, a native of Chicago. The guy in the middle is a guy called Gary, who comes from Wisconsin. And I flew out to meet them. I've never met either of them before, obviously. I'd never spoken to either of them before, apart from through videos. So it was a real leap of faith. Myself and Gary had sort of struck up quite a relationship, although he's about 15 years younger than me. We have a huge interest in music, and we sort of got to know each other, similar interests, talking about lots of different things online as well. So I flew out to Chicago, met these 2 guys, and I always loved that thing at the top, twisted yet brilliant. We thought that described us perfectly. We couldn't resist taking the photo when we saw that. So we spent a couple of days in Chicago, as I said, never met before, had a look around, and then we did a road trip to Nashville. We drove down to Nashville to a gathering, a YouTube gathering. As I said, people were getting these things together. It's called South Tube, in Nashville, in a hotel. And there were about 100 odd people there. I was the only British or non-American there, which was quite an amazing experience. You're travelling around in America only with Americans, seeing America through Americans' eyes, going to places that only they would go to, is a different way of travelling. Apart from going with the groups and all that type of thing, this is a different way of doing it. It's quite a unique experience. It's something that I would recommend to anybody. And spending the weekend in Nashville as well, an amazing city, a place that I would certainly recommend that anyone goes to. And we had a great time. We hit it off straight away, as we know we would, by sort of meetups from that sort of time. And right, this is the second trip that I took in about April of 2010. A whole group of us decided we would do what we call a vlogger's caravan. I'd always wanted to go up the west coast of America, do the classic road trip from LA to San Francisco, and I did it. And I did it with these guys. There's only one other UK guy there, Steve. The rest of them are from America as well. So on that particular occasion, flew out to Los Angeles and met up with Steve there, second on the left from Bristol. Never met him before until I met him at Los Angeles airport. We spent a couple of days in Los Angeles, travelling around once again with another friend who sadly isn't in this picture, who took us around to lots of places that we maybe would never have seen. We certainly wouldn't have done it on our own. Not in Los Angeles, you can't walk there, as you're probably aware. And had a great time there, and then we did this 5-day trip. 5 days, 4 nights, all the way up the west coast of America, stopping at all these places. This particular one is in Santa Barbara. I mean, you've got Jason there from Los Angeles, Steve from Bristol, Ken from Santa Cruz, myself, Mark, who's from Austin in Texas, and Gary, who's from Wisconsin, and there were others there. Just as I said, just like-minded people who would never have met up if it hadn't have been for that particular website and getting together through that. We went up the coast, and we ended up in this place. In San Francisco, spent the weekend in San Francisco, stayed with one of the guys on the trip, Mike, stayed with him and his partner Rich in their hotel, in their house there, and had a great weekend. Once again, what can you do? I would never have done this type of thing without this particular voyage, without this particular trip, journey on YouTube itself. Obviously, we talked a lot, we drank a lot, we talked about music a lot, and we made loads of videos as well. And the other thing that I would say, I mean, from this, a couple of the guys have come over to the UK as well. I've met several people who've come over to the UK. One of the guys I met in Santa Monica has come over, Richie, who's now an author, and met him. He's come to Hastings. He's come all the way from California to Hastings. And so I've taken him around the old town of Hastings, as you do with any sort of friend or any family member, I suppose, and other people I've done the same for as well. But the other aspect I'd like to mention is what I've learned and what I've gained out of making these videos over these sort of 12 years. And one thing I would say is I probably wouldn't be standing here now if it wasn't for making these videos. It gives you the confidence to talk into a camera. It gives you the confidence to maybe stand up in front of other people. I had done, and still do, radio DJing now, and I have done comparing as well. The two certainly complement each other. Talking into a radio mic or in a radio studio into a microphone and talking into a camera is like talking to yourself. It's like you don't know if anybody's listening, you don't know if anybody's watching. And when I've done things like this, even talking at my father's funeral, for example, I've treated it as recording a vlog and trying to focus on one particular person or one particular viewpoint and use it like that and just focus and just talk. So it's taught me a lot about that. It's got me into doing other things as well. It's made me inquisitive by learning through the experience of talking to these other people and what I've gained through them, whether it be on the road trips or just through watching these other people's videos as well. Getting out there and just exploring new avenues. It got me back into photography, for example, which I had done before. It also got me into making different types of videos, because when you're making all these videos, you start looking at them in different ways and exploring different avenues and ways of making videos, and editing and all that sort of stuff. I started a series of videos of doing just scenic walks, going out into the countryside that I love to do anyway, and just making videos about the history, the natural history, the environment, and putting the camera on yourself. I've done them about Hastings, I've done them about London, other places as well, photographic videos, all those type of things as well. So it's taught me a lot in that respect, and it's also led me back into blogging, because I did start blogging before. I did dabble in that before I started in video and discovered video, and through the blogging I posted loads of things on a site called Blogging, which you may have heard of, and I've even published an ebook as well, because it sort of inspired me to keep going. It's that sort of whole thing about communicating, I suppose. Once you start making videos, you're talking, people are responding, people are reacting to them, and then you're meeting the people as well. You know that people are actually often, not always, interested in what you're talking about and your story as well, I suppose. And through the writing, it got me into music writing, it got me into sort of music journalism type of thing. I ended up starting a local music magazine called The Stinger, which was partly through this whole journey, which I never would have taken beforehand. So lots of different things have come out of this. And I've said all the different videos that I've made. I don't tend to make them as much now. If I do make videos, it is generally more of a travel type of videos. I suppose the general vlogs have taken a bit of a back seat, so now it's if I go on holiday to somewhere, where I've been to Spain a lot recently, or I've been to Jordan, luckily a couple of years ago, and I just record videos there, a bit like the scenic walk type of videos that I mentioned earlier, where I would just go out there and just talk about where I am, the sort of thing that I'm doing, and people seem to like them. I was in Spain not long ago actually, and people saying, I hope you're going to do some of those videos. So yes, I've learned a lot about myself, about lots of different things through video making that I would only have learned through meeting these guys and getting out there and doing all those different things as well. So to sort of wrap it up really, when I started making that first video in 2006, I had no idea where it was going to lead me. And it's only 12 years, but it's been quite a journey. I don't tend to post videos now so much, but in fact I haven't posted a video on YouTube for, I think it's around about a year and a half or so now. Now Facebook has arrived, Instagram has arrived, and we all tend to post things on that, whether it's through Facebook Live or just putting things up, because we've all got smartphones now, and it's never been easier to do that type of thing. So what I would say is that I didn't know I would be standing here 12 years ago. I didn't know I would have been on the journey that I have. I wouldn't know that I would make all these friends literally across the world. It would take me on road trips to America that I never would have taken if it hadn't have been for me getting onto this particular site and finding it sort of 12 years ago. So I would encourage anyone to just sort of get a camera, turn it on themselves and have a go. You don't have to upload the videos. I've recorded many videos that I've never uploaded. It's a sort of form of therapy sometimes, just to sort of record a video and keep it for posterity to look back on it for yourself. So give it a go. You never know, you might enjoy it. It may take you on your own journey, and maybe one day I'll be sitting in that one of those seats over there watching you. You never know. I'd like to think so. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Andy. I don't know if you know, but the Bavard has a YouTube channel. Currently has 16 subscribers. Yes. Oh yes. How many do you have, Andy?
It's about 1,500.
1,500. So maybe if you fancy subscribing and watching, all the talks, by the way, go onto YouTube via the website, as do the KB Likes, Rachel Rachel, and the Oojas. I think there's the biggest number of viewers that we've had was for an Ooja movie last month at Eastbourne. Has reached 6.8 thousand. Unbelievable. Normally it's about 20. So I don't know what's happening. But anyway, any questions for Andy? Anybody? Yes. Anyway.
I'm glad to hear you've had such a great experience from this channel, and it's been really good for you. You get to go all over the world, and that's amazing. But this has also had a really detrimental effect on a lot of people all over the world. That, you know, a lot of negativity has come from it, a lot of awful experiences come from people posting their own videos and their own channels and that kind of thing. So how can you shed some kind of positive light on people that have had such awful times with this?
I can only sympathise. I mean, it happens even back in 2006. Sorry?
Any kind of negativity for yourself? Did you ever experience
I've always been very lucky, actually. That's just pure luck more than design. But I know people have. Gary, one of the people that I showed you earlier, was in Chicago in California. He had a real trouble this is back in 2006, 2007, that sort of time. He had trouble back then. It's not a new thing, believe me. And it's not going to go away. I don't think I'd like it to. What YouTube do, I mean, they're such a huge corporation now. They were a bit better back in the day because I think it was a lot smaller. Possibly even the pre-Google days, I don't know. So yes, I totally understand it, and I know lots of people who've been through it. The haters, the trolls, I think I might even mention that at the time. But as I said, I've had a bit, but I've been very lucky, but I know people who have suffered from it a lot. So.
Any other questions for Andy? Yes, one back on, running up here.
Right. So what did you start doing? What did you blog about first?
Anything really. I suppose we talked about anything and everything. It could be, I mean, I'm a huge music fan, so I probably talked about that. To be honest, it's such a long time, 800 years ago, it's a long time ago, but we used to talk about anything. It could be music, it could be something that's happening in the news, possibly politics. I must admit, I've never talked about that a huge amount. Philosophical stuff maybe, you know, and the differences between our cultures. Because as I said, I was talking to people literally across the world, and we were talking about our own lives in our own countries. So we were learning through that as well, and being opened up to what it was like in Australia or whatever.
So did you have a desire to vlog, or did you want to talk about what you wanted to talk about? So how did you get into it? That's what I'm saying too.
And why? Yes, that's a good question. I suppose, having been a radio DJ before, there's a sort of a communication here, I suppose. So you become a communicator in some ways. It's like, you feel like Stan, what's his name? The guy with the microphone. Kept cutting out. And Stan Collier, or something I can't remember. Anyway, and yes, I suppose I've always been a bit of a communicator, hence the fact that I'm standing here now, because certain people wouldn't do it, I suppose. So I've always had a desire to do that, or hankering for it. And that was an avenue. In 2006, I found an avenue to do that, to just talk rubbish, I suppose, sometimes. And some people started watching it, and you meet up with other people who talk rubbish, and we have a great time and a few beers in California. Can't be bad, can it?
1,500 subscribers as well, so that's going. So, yeah, question down at front, Chris.
Hello. This chap who got you into it, the guy who's giving out free webcams. Firstly, did you ever meet him? And secondly, is he still broadcasting?
He is still broadcasting. No, sadly I didn't meet him because he comes from Ohio, but we are friends on Facebook. And he actually is a really interesting case because he took this more or less to its limits, and he's been broadcasting basically his life on and off since those days in 2006, right through breakdowns, right through nearly losing his house, repossession. He's had a recent marriage breakdown and he broadcasts that sort of stuff. I couldn't do that, but he's done that. So some people use it as that, to get it out there. And one thing I meant to mention earlier, this is a huge digital memory bank. All that stuff is out there. It's my history. Whether it be the road trips or whether it be the other stuff that I talked about, I can look back on that, and I have done, and you think, wow, some of it's rubbish, I admit, and you sort of hide behind the sofa at times, but some of it is really interesting stuff, and you just forget stuff. So it's still there,
Excellent. Any last questions for Andy and his middle-aged confession? Any final questions? If there's no final questions, then can we thank Andy